Welcome and thanks for being with us today. Your commitment to enhancing your English abilities and bettering yourself is truly valued. That night started like many other nights, very quiet. So quiet that I could clearly hear the clock on the wall ticking in the small room. And if it had not been for a decision that seemed very normal, my life might not have changed direction. I left the office later than usual. The street in front of the building was emptier than normal. The yellow streetlights shone on the wet road after the afternoon rain, and everything felt familiar, so familiar that I did not feel worried at all. I remember checking my phone, replying to a few messages, then walking faster because the night wind became cold, and I did not notice that a black car had stopped behind me. The sound of the car door opening was very quiet, too quiet for me to turn around, and only when a rough arm wrapped around my neck did everything suddenly turn into chaos. I did not have time to scream or react. I only felt the smell of old cloth mixed with disinfectant covering my face, and a strong pull that lifted my feet off the ground. The world disappeared in just a few seconds. When I woke up, the first thing I felt was the cold concrete floor under my back, then a dull pain in my wrists, which were tied tightly with a rough rope. The room was dark and unclear, with only a weak light bulb hanging from the ceiling, swinging slightly when the wind came through a small gap. I tried to move, but my movement was limited, and at that moment a very pure and basic fear rose from my stomach, making my hands shake without control. I had been kidnapped. That thought did not come immediately, but slowly appeared, like a truth that my mind had to accept even though I did not want to. The room had no windows, the walls were rough concrete, and the smell of dampness showed that this place had been abandoned for a long time, or at least not lived in normally. Time passed very slowly, and I did not know how long I had been lying there. I only knew that every time I closed my eyes, the image of the arm pulling me into the car came back clearly. There were footsteps outside, slow, heavy, and clearly meant for me to hear. The metal door opened, light from the hallway shone inside and made me squint, and at that moment I saw two men standing in the light, saying nothing, only watching. One man walked closer, bent down, checked the rope, then nodded as if everything was going as planned. "Do not scream," he said in a low and rough voice. "No one can hear you here." That simple and cold sentence was more frightening than threats. They did not hit me and did not ask questions. They only left a bottle of water and a box of food, placed just far enough that I had to stretch to reach them. The silence after they left was so heavy that I could hear my own heartbeat. I tried to think, but my mind felt covered in fog, and every escape plan disappeared as soon as it appeared. I did not know who they were or what they wanted, and that made my fear spread with nothing to hold on to. The first day passed in a half-awake state. I ate very little and drank slowly because I was afraid that if it was gone, I would not get more. At night, the cold became stronger, and I curled up, trying to keep a little warmth, while my mind kept asking questions with no answers. On the second day, they came back. This time, one man pulled out a chair and sat in front of me. The light shone straight into my eyes, so I could not see his face clearly. He asked a few short and very specific questions about my name, job, and habits, as if checking a prepared list. I answered slowly and carefully because I felt that any mistake could make things worse. There was no torture and no violence, and that normal feeling made me more nervous. The days after that mixed together. Time lost its shape, and I started to realize that the most dangerous thing was not the kidnappers, but the feeling of losing control. I focused on very small things to stay aware, counting cracks on the wall, listening to distant car sounds to know that the outside world was still moving. Sometimes I talked to myself quietly, saying meaningless sentences, just to be sure that I still existed. One evening, when the door opened later than usual, I felt that something was different. The man who usually came did not appear. Instead, there was a new face, younger, with uncertain eyes, as if he was also uncomfortable with his role. He put the food down and stood there for a moment without speaking. In that short moment, I saw hesitation, and for the first time since being taken, I felt a very small hope. I did not beg or ask too much. I only said softly that I was very thirsty and my wrists hurt. He hesitated, then loosened the rope just a little so I could move more easily. That small action, which might not mean much to him, became a turning point for me. I began to watch more carefully, remember details, sounds, and routines, as if putting together a picture from very small pieces. On the 12th night, or maybe the 13th, I wasn't sure anymore, I heard arguing outside, louder and more urgent voices. The door opened suddenly and the young man appeared, his face pale and his eyes full of fear. "Go," he said quickly, cutting the rope. "Now." I did not ask or hesitate. I stood up, my legs shaking, but I followed him through a long and narrow hallway. The last door opened to the outside. Cold night air filled my lungs, and I took a deep breath, as if I was breathing again for the first time. We ran without looking back, our footsteps echoing in the night, until streetlights appeared, and with them the safety I thought I would never feel again. After that came the hospital, the police, and many questions, but all of it felt unclear compared to the feeling of surviving. Many weeks later, I still jumped when I heard doors slam, and I still woke up at night with a racing heart, but I slowly learned to accept that these cracks would be part of me. Being kidnapped did not only take time, it also took away innocence, but in return, it left a different kind of awareness. And every time I walk outside at night, I no longer see safety as something normal, but as something fragile and very valuable. If you find this video interesting and helpful, please give me a like and subscribe.